It was a quiet evening at the prestigious Royal Grand Hotel, nestled in the heart of the city. Inside, a wealthy crowd of high-profile guests filled the lobby, sipping champagne and discussing their next business ventures. Among them was Tanya, a young, hard-working woman who had just begun her job as a receptionist at the hotel. Tanya was no stranger to hard work. Growing up in a small neighborhood, she had always believed that success came from determination, humility, and treating everyone with respect. This philosophy had led her to this moment, the chance to work at one of the most luxurious hotels in the country. But her dream job quickly turned into a nightmare. One evening, as the hotel hosted a gala for some of the wealthiest people in town, Tanya was at the front desk, ensuring everything ran smoothly. The lobby was bustling with chatter and laughter, but Tanya's focus was on her duties. That was when a group of elite guests, clearly accustomed to their lavish surroundings, approached the front desk. At first, Tanya greeted them with the usual warmth, but their cold, condescending stares made her uneasy. One of the men, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, sneered at her, barely acknowledging her presence. "Can you get us a drink? Or are you too busy with that?" he said, pointing to the old-fashioned typewriter Tanya was using to take down guest information. His friends chuckled, their laughter echoing through the lobby. Tanya tried her best to keep her composure, but the insult stung. She wanted to stand up for herself, but the weight of her position held her back. She was just the receptionist, after all. She had to swallow her pride and smile through the discomfort. For the rest of the evening, the group continued to make jabs at her. They mocked her clothes, her job, and even the way she spoke. The sting of humiliation settled deep in her chest, but she reminded herself that she had to rise above it. She was there to do her job, nothing more, nothing less. The next few days were no better. The same group of guests came and went, their rude behavior continuing. Tanya was exhausted by the constant need to maintain her composure, and her morale began to sink. She started questioning whether she was really cut out for this, but deep down, Tanya knew that no matter what, she couldn't let them see her falter. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. One evening, as Tanya was wrapping up her shift, a sleek black car pulled up to the front of the hotel. A man stepped out, looking familiar, though Tanya couldn't quite place him. He walked past her without a word, heading toward the elevator. She couldn't help but wonder who he was, but she had no time to linger on it. Her shift was nearly over. As fate would have it, the next morning, Tanya found herself assigned to handle a special request for a VIP guest. She wasn't told exactly who it was, but the manager mentioned that it would be a high-profile individual. As Tanya entered the penthouse suite to deliver some documents, she was stunned to see none other than the man from the previous evening, sitting at a grand dining table looking out at the city skyline. His back was to her, but as she placed the papers down on the table, he turned around. And that's when Tanya recognized him. He was the man who had mocked her months ago, the one who had made her feel small. Now, there he was, sitting in front of her, but with a look of pure vulnerability in his eyes. "Excuse me," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "Do you remember me from a few months ago? I was one of the guests at the gala." Tanya didn't respond immediately. She had so many emotions swirling inside her. Anger, frustration, but also a strange sense of calm. She had every right to put him in his place, but she decided to wait. "I owe you an apology," he continued, his voice sincere. "I've been a fool. The truth is, I didn't know who you were then. I didn't realize how wrong I was. You see, I'm not just a guest here anymore. I'm the guest. I'm the one who's been trying to buy my way into the upper echelons of society for years. But I've come to learn the hard way that respect is something you earn, not something you demand. Tanya listened in stunned silence as the man confessed his struggles. He went on to explain how his wealth had made him arrogant and blinded him to the lives of others. His family's fortune had given him power, but he had learned through personal loss and failure that true success was about kindness and integrity. I've been trying to make amends for the mistakes I've made. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I've learned a lot from that day. Tanya stood there, feeling a mix of emotions. She wanted to lash out, but something about his honesty made her pause. For a long moment, she simply nodded. "I appreciate your apology," she said softly, "but it's not about forgiveness for me. It's about knowing my worth and not letting people like you define it." Years passed, and Tanya's career at the hotel continued to flourish. She worked hard, rising through the ranks with her incredible work ethic and undeniable talent. But the memories of that night, the insults and the disrespect never left her. They motivated her every day, pushing her to become better and stronger. 5 years later, Tanya stood in the lobby of the Royal Grand Hotel, not as a receptionist, but as its CEO. The same hotel that had once dismissed her, mocked her, and belittled her, now stood as a symbol of her resilience and determination. Tanya had earned her position the hard way, through grit, perseverance, and the lessons she learned from both the good and bad moments of her past. The day she was announced as CEO, the very man who had once insulted her walked into the hotel, his head lowered in respect. He recognized her immediately, but this time his gaze was different. Gone was the arrogance. In its place was admiration. Tanya smiled to herself as she walked through the grand hall, her heart full of pride. She had shown everyone that no matter where you start, you could rise above it all. And as she looked out at the guests who would soon walk into her hotel, she knew that she had earned the right to be there, not because of who she knew or what she had, but because of the strength of her character. Want to hear more stories like this? Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more incredible tales of triumph and redemption.